Hello there, I'm Robert Kornacki, CSO at dcSpark, and today I'm really excited and proud to announce dcSpark's very first major Urbit product, Urbit Visor. Urbit Visor is a web extension which transforms your web browser into a first-class Urbit client. So let's break that down a little bit. Currently, as most of you may know, Urbit primarily lives inside of landscape, and now with the recent new updates, we have grid or the homepage, and that kind of exists as the one place where apps can be made, can be shipped and deployed. That's thus far has been a great experience. However, there's a lot of limitations to that, where from the blockchain ecosystem, as someone who's been in the crypto world for the past few years professionally, we've seen a lot of back and forth initially when dApps first came about whether you'd have these native desktop clients for every single dApp and have these experiences where you have them, custom built in a specific enclosure, in a specific box, so to speak, versus the concept of web dApps, where you can just jump between dApps on the web and get a lot of new functionality based off of light wallet web extensions, enhancing the experience of the web browser. And if you're in crypto at all, it's pretty safe to say that the web dApp experience versus the desktop dApp, or like the custom dApp experience where you have custom UIs built for every single different platform, that did not really turn out well. All of those dApps pretty much didn't succeed. Some blockchains tried to have their wallets become, the all-in-one system, and that never really ended up scaling well, and really market demand showed that there was a lot of other potential through the web dApp experience. And so, coming from that world, when I looked at Urbit, I really worked through what's the best way we can enhance the experience for external apps through the Airlock API. How can we actually make that experience really, really good? And that's something I really thought about for the past year and a half. And that's kind of what led up to Urbit Visor. And so one of the very first realizations we came to, or at least I came to and brought into Urbit Visor, is the fact that the current experience of having to share your Plus code with external apps is very subpar. And then everything around that kind of percolates from there, where users don't have a good way to store all of the credentials of their Urbit chips. And so they're kind of trapped within the landscape, which is, and now they have, the home page with grid, and that kind of really starts to move forward in a good step compared to what was just landscape before. But there's still a lot of limitations, and Urbit Visor, which I'm going to show you shortly, tries to tackle each one of those, provide a better UX, not just for external applications and web apps, but also even for the login experience of your Urbit chip itself. So to get to the home page, grid, or to landscape. And so rather than do a 5-hour monologue prior to showing you Urbit Visor, I think it's best for us just to jump right into this and then just go step by step, showing all the features. And then halfway through this, I'm going to also show you another mini sub-project for Urbit Visor called Urbit Dashboard, which is the very first Urbit web app which supports Urbit Visor. So let's jump right in. For this video, I will be using two test ships, one that is a moon and one that is a comet. And so let's jump right into Urbit Visor and see how we can add those into Urbit Visor. So, as you can see, Urbit Visor is a web extension. Currently, we have it running in Chrome, and as of this video, you can go to the GitHub repo, which you'll see in front of you, and there will be a link down below, or you can go to urbitvisor.com, which forwards you here, and you can compile it yourself and get started today. We are also submitting it to the Chrome Web Store, and we'll be looking at Firefox support in the near future, and so the install process will be a lot simpler. However, for now, you still have to compile it yourself. With that said, let's jump right in. So as you can see here, this is the Urbit Visor setup screen. When you click setup, it asks you first to submit your master password, to create a master password rather. And so just like in the crypto world, which you may have experience in with light wallets, where you have your private keys encrypted inside of your light wallet in the sandboxed web extension, we have a similar setup where the credentials to all of your Urbit chips, so the IP/domain and the plus code, are always encrypted, and they're only decrypted using the master password you set when you want to connect or perform some admin functionality like permission management. So for this example, I'm just going to set a simple password of 123, but obviously for your own use case, you want a more advanced password. Once you continue there, as you can see, we have the ability to add a ship into Urbit Visor. So now I'm going to add my local host ship, and I will get the plus code right now and add it here. So as you can see, after I press continue, it's started to connect to the Urbit ship. It verified that the plus code I provided and the IP were good, and then it made a connection. Now it's asking me to reconfirm my master password, and this will actually encrypt the credentials I just submitted and store them inside of Urbit Visor. So I put my master password and we click submit. Now, as you can see, we have, this is a moon in this case, one of my moons for my ship, added into Urbit Visor. And so what this means is, just to reiterate, the credentials are stored in the ship, and to actually connect to my moon, so to add a live airlock connection via Urbit Visor, all I have to do is click through, type in my master password, and click connect. And as you can see, I am now connected to my moon. Just a small note, this version of Urbit Visor is the MVP, and also the UI you see is going to be going through a major overhaul in the upcoming weeks. And so this release is really optimized to provide a lot of awesome functionality and to get this into the community's hands so that you can start building today. However, we're going to be making some really big updates in the near future. So now that we have my ship here, my moon, added into Urbit Visor, we can also jump straight to your home or grid. And so effectively, what we have with Urbit Visor is one of the easiest login experiences in general. Because what we can do is add every single moon, comet, ship, star, galaxy that you have into Urbit Visor. And then rather than having to jump between bookmarks for every single ship, remember what the plus code is, or copy and paste the plus code, which is very insecure, you can actually just store them all inside of Urbit Visor, click on any of them that you want, and just go straight to home. And just to reiterate this, I'm going to next add a comment that I also have running locally, just to show off how this works. So now I'm copying the plus code, and as you see, it detected the comment from the IP and code, now confirming, and boom, I also have this comment open. And so just to show how easy it is to log in to the comment, I just type in my master password, click home, and boom, this first tab is the moon I have, and the second tab is the comment. And so what's really cool is that because the airlock inside of Urbit Visor uses the same IP as your ship itself, that means the cookie can actually be transferred from Visor to the website, which means that you can have this seamless login experience where every single ship you have inside of Urbit Visor, all you have to do is click the one you want, type in your master password, click home, and boom, you're already logged in. even if you're logged out prior to that. And so this is really awesome. And in itself, it's pretty cool because it's a lot easier to manage multi-ships from an end user experience. But this is just like a simple first step into Urbit Visor. What I'm going to be showing off next is actually what is the real point, what is the real value in Urbit Visor itself, and how can we claim that it turns your web browser into a first-class Urbit client. So, jumping ahead from there, let's visit the very first Urbit web app, which we have called Urbit Dashboard. So you can visit this at urbitdashboard.com, and with the publishing of this video, this will be live for you to test out. And so, as you can see, Urbit Dashboard has a bunch of pages and functionality. However, it's locked behind Urbit Visor. So, Urbit Visor has your credentials to your ships. What you can do is connect to your ship, and that opens an airlock connection. When that airlock connection is opened, Urbit Visor also injects an API into the website, so in this case, urbitdashboard.com. And this API wraps both the airlock API, but also adds a lot of extra functionality, which both makes the lives of developers a lot easier, plus implements an entire permission layer that keeps your ship secure so that random websites can't just read all your data, post random comments or any personal information onto your ship, into groups, or any of the above. All of that is guarded behind the permission system, and so let's jump right into seeing what this experience is like. So, when you have Urbit Visor installed, you'll see on the website that it says connect to Urbit Visor. When you click connect, because I'm not connected to an Urbit ship, so there's no airlock connection currently live, that means that there's nothing that the website can use to talk to your ship, right? And so what we actually have to do is log in to connect to one of the ships. And so in this case, as you can see there, I connected to this moon. Right there, as you may have seen, I already logged in to the website, and that's because I already provided permissions prior to the moon. And so just to take you one step back, I deleted the permissions, and we can look at that in a moment. But effectively, once you have a ship connected, we can now click connect to Urbit Visor, and it'll tell us open Urbit Visor to grant permissions. Here you see that urbitdashboard.com is requesting the following permissions. It's requesting to be able to read my ship name, my ship URL, to be able to perform scries on my ship, subscribe, poke, and thread. To grant it, all I have to do is type in my master password and then click grant. As you can see there, because I granted the permissions, now Urbit Dashboard is instantly talking to my ship through Urbit Visor, through this permission layer, which we just provided authorization to. And now it's scraping all that data and now showing you, or not scraping, but sorry, pulling all that data and now showing a lot of ship activity that's going on my moon. Before we jump right into what is going on right here, which looks, nice and pretty, I just want to go back and talk about the permissions, just to kind of, finalize that. So, permissions are on a domain basis. And so, whenever you provide permissions, these are what the domain are allowed to perform with your Urbit ship. We provide the ability to delete, to revoke these permissions on a domain or per permission basis. And effectively, if you remove these permissions, then the website cannot perform anything on your Urbit ship. And so in this way, we have this very strong firewall, effectively a firewall, between your Urbit ship and the wild west of the web, where there's a lot of people who could potentially create web applications or websites of other fashions, or maybe even other browser extensions, which access this API and could read all of your data if it was just a basic airlock API injected. But Urbit Visor wraps that all in a nice permission layer and makes this all safe and secure. One thing to note also, we're actually storing these permissions on the Urbit ship itself inside of Settings Store. What this means is that rather than having to install Urbit Visor, say on 2 different computers, and having to re-accept the same permissions every time, you only have to accept the permissions once. This gets stored directly on your Urbit ship, and then whenever you can have 5,000 computers, 2 computers, 10 computers, whichever of those computers adds your ship into Urbit Visor, the permissions are already all synced together, and so you have this unified experience that no matter which computer you use Urbit Visor from for the same ship, every website that you expect to work will work. And so that's a pretty cool experience that we can provide because we have this very strong ability to instantly connect to almost any ship that a user puts in, and then have all of these advanced features that people take with them throughout the web. So now that we've talked about permissions, I guess we can also show off just how easy it is to connect to other ships. So when you're on Urbit Dashboard, you can hit disconnect. It automatically disconnects you. So now I can also, connect to this comet. And this comet already had permissions previously. And as you can see, it's currently loading. And then it's pulled all this data once again from the comet this time. So let's kind of take a look at what Urbit Dashboard has and what we offer from Urbit Visor for devs to use. So as you can see, this very first page effectively just looks at all of your ship activity and provides you with some nice shiny graphs and just some basic data. So here you can see I'm in 6 groups, 13 channels, 1,052 contacts, 1451 unread. These are the various groups that I have unread messages in, how many I have. Over here we have the most popular groups that I'm in. Urbit Community is obviously the most popular group with 5,231 people, and so forth. And so this is effectively just a ship activity page, which also has these detailed sections where you can see specifically, what the most popular groups are, how many channels they have, members, visibility, and more info about the unread messages. So this is kind of an example of how we can take existing Urbit data and then expose it in a new way, reusing, the countless libraries on GitHub for JavaScript, for TypeScript, which pretty much allows you to plug and play all of the data that you already have on your Urbit ship into nice and beautiful graphs and websites that you can actually build out using that data. And so this is extremely trivial because all of this is exposed via the Urbit Visor API, which is injected into the web page. So past the ship activity page, we have the admin panel. So the admin panel can be thought of as a visual front end to performing a lot of the basic primitive actions that you can on an Urbit ship. So as you may know, for Urbit ships, you can scry, perform threads, pokes, and subscriptions. And so these are the primitives that are exposed from Airlock, and this is what we provide here. And what's quite cool is that for the dev experience, or for someone who's trying to debug their ship, the admin panel provides you with a lot of power. So for example, with scries, you can see we already have a bunch of default scries, and you can of course, write whatever you want. So if you have a Goal app that's not one of the defaults we've listed here, you can, test out your own Goal apps from here and see what the scry data is. But for your basic dev experience and for testing around with your ship, you can actually, for example, go to Graph Store in keys, and suddenly you can instantly see all of the different keys and effectively all of the different channels that you are in various groups. And so effectively, when I clicked submit here, it talked to the comet through Urbit Visor. What's pretty cool about Urbit Visor is that the fact we have credentials of multiple ships inside this one extension, and it's so easy to disconnect from one ship and connect to another ship, we actually expose a brand new UX experience that was never possible before in the form of ship hot swapping. So now, right now I'm logged into or connected to this comment. I can click disconnect, jump to my Moon, type in my password, press connect, and I'm instantly already in Urbit Dashboard, and I can already perform the scry to GraphStore for the keys that I made on my comment. And so in a matter of, if you're fast, you can do this in like, about 2 seconds, 3 seconds, I'm already in, click submit, and already it works. This is a really big jump compared to just having, my comet landscape open in tab 1, my moon landscape being open in tab 2, jumping between them, it's slow, it's not that great. And for a lot of use cases where you might want to jump between ships, it's not great, and it doesn't offer a lot of the neat functionality that hot swapping with Urbit Visor does. What's really cool is that from a standpoint of people, either for hosting or whether when you're providing services, specifically for service providers, this kind of hot swapping really allows you to have a lot of power. And so if Urbit Dashboard or another Urbit web app similar to Dashboard comes out which supports a lot of specific features for service providers, for example, there's a lot of really great functionality you can get from hot swapping and being able just to jump between ships instantly. I'm sure there's a lot of other use cases that are more user-focused as well, which can really gain a lot here. And effectively, Urbit Dashboard is just this very first Urbit web app, which shows a bunch of different use cases and then implements them so that people and devs can see how one goes about doing all of this in practice. And so effectively, this is kind of the base which we're using to show off what is possible. So, besides scry, you can do pokes, you can subscribe. You can subscribe to GraphStore as well, to all updates, and just track what's going on. And so this is very useful if you're doing some dev work. Urbit Dashboard, and specifically the admin panel, is kind of perfect because it allows you to just easily make a bunch of requests, have a lot of, point and click here, and it makes it really easy to test stuff, which is really, really awesome. Jumping ahead, we also have a chat feed. So this is effectively showing off the fact that we can make subscriptions through Urbit Visor, which take advantage of the permission layer, and then which subscribe to the Urbit ship itself, and in this case, GraphStore, to read all of the live chat feeds. So just to show off that this is in fact, watching GraphStore live. Let's go to the home page, jump to landscape of my Urbit ship. And as you can see, with the hot swapping experience, we could jump between ships so fast, but loading landscape takes, 5-6 seconds. And so there's really a lot of value in that hot swapping ability. So with that said, we can create a new chat called test. And in here, we're just gonna say, basic, hello there, test. And so this is on my comment, as you can see. And so now that I've posted this, it's been saved into GraphStore on my comment. Now, if I go back to Urbit Dashboard, you can see that, hey, at this time, I posted hello there and then test. And so effectively, this is just an example of how you can subscribe and filter through all of the updates and all of the JSON into easily posting this into a live feed. There's also a lot of, maybe not a lot, but a few really good key API endpoints, which we expose in Urbit Visor, that makes it really trivial to build these Urbit web apps compared to doing everything manually and yourself. And one of these is the .on endpoint. And if some of you devs are interested there, it provides a really, really great experience for both subscribing to Urbit Visor events, so related to permission layer, related to whether a Urbit ship is connected or not, and also to SSE events that actually happen on the Urbit ship itself, such as an SSE subscription to GraphStore and to all the updates. And so this is just a really great page to take a look at if you're interested in using the subscription functionality for building Urbit web apps. The next page we have is the troubleshooting page. So the troubleshooting page, it's a simple page that allows you to perform a bunch of simple, useful troubleshooting functionality. So you can print the grandparent of your ship, because I have a comment in this case, it's odd. You can print the parent. You can update your Urbit ship. You can check the latest hash. You can kill idle threads. So this is always useful, as some of you may know, when you want to kill spider threads because stuff isn't working properly. You can reset your ship, reset landscape, do plus trouble. And this is all live, talking with the Urbit ship, and then producing all of the output. And so this is a good page to check out if you want to see how to do pokes, for example, and specifically related to Herm, which allows you to effectively issue dojo commands. And so this plus trouble is making a poke, which happens on your Urbit ship inside a dojo, and then it's subscribing and reading the results of your poke and then pasting it here. Lastly, after troubleshooting, we have the profile page. And so the profile page, it just shows, your sigil, or in this case, your comment. So you have no sigil, how many contacts you have in your ship, group, channels, your pat-p, and what kind of ship you have. Just to make this look a little bit nicer, we can jump to my moon. And as you can see here, it's pulling information and then filling in all of this. As you can see also, just to clarify, when the Urbit Dashboard detects that you have hot swapped or connected with an Urbit ship, it does a bunch of subscriptions, which take a little bit of time to read all of the channels, contacts, and groups. However, we're already currently talking potentially with the Urbit Foundation and eventually Tlon to try and add some extra scry endpoints to try and make a lot of this a lot snappier and better. And so we think that this experience overall is quite smooth, but there's a lot of steps moving forward, both in terms of efficiency of the Urbit ship itself and the runtime and everything there, but also in terms of just the user space endpoints, which will allow a lot of improvements. And so Urbit Dashboard is a really exciting first Urbit web app because it shows off all of this different functionality and the fact that you can create web apps that are smooth, nice, and not that challenging to build from a average TypeScript or JavaScript developer perspective, which has really been a big missing point in the ecosystem, in my opinion. We have a lot of really great work being done. However, so little is exposed to end users who aren't just, your coder nerd. And so I think by having Urbit Visor open up the door to really allow web apps like this that are, Urbit web apps, first-class web apps that target Urbit via Urbit Visor, there's a lot of really cool functionality that we have at our hands. And this whole permission layer that's in Urbit Visor really provides a lot of security while kind of adopting from the web dApp model from crypto and bringing it into Urbit. With that said, this is not all that Urbit Visor provides. And this is actually just the first step. And so we have a nice roadmap, which I will likely be talking about more in depth, not in this YouTube video, but most likely in a dev call or maybe in another event coming up soon at Assembly. I'm potentially also speaking there, talking about Urbit Visor. And so I'll kind of leave the full roadmap for Urbit Visor into those talks. However, just to give you a bit of a taste, because we have Urbit Visor in the web browser, not only can we have Urbit web apps, websites which integrate with Urbit Visor, and also that provides us with a lot of potential. For example, when users have MetaMask and actual web dApps, they can implement, a full Urbit Visor integration in existing web dApps so that users can, for example, perform off-chain computation, messaging using their Urbit ship, then between 2 people, 4 people, maybe a DAO, and then use their MetaMask to then sign transactions and post those on chain. There's nothing stopping both MetaMask and Urbit Visor from being used on the same web page to perform, entire crypto protocols, whether that's for a dApp or some sort of off-chain computation. And so there's a lot of really exciting overlap between the crypto world and Urbit. And having this native client inside of Urbit really makes native client for Urbit inside of the web browser really makes this possible. However, like I was saying, we don't just have the ability for web apps and websites to take advantage of Urbit Visor, but we actually enable a whole new class of UX to be possible with Urbit Visor powered web extensions. So not only do we have the ability for websites to interact with Urbit Visor, but any web extension can also interact with Urbit Visor. What this means is that you can build web extensions like Pocket, for example, for Firefox, which you may know. And we can recreate Pocket and build that for Urbit, and that interacts directly with Urbit Visor. And so rather than saving all that data to some random server owned by Mozilla, it gets saved directly onto your Urbit ship and or shared with others in a group. Besides that, there's a lot of other functionality, and you will see in an upcoming grant, which we have proposed recently, that we're actually going to be building a Twitter Urbit Visor extension. And there's a lot of other really cool potential functionality that is possible by the fact that you have this, credential store plus permission system that directly connects to your Urbit ship, making all these connections with these, random websites and random web extensions completely safe and secure for the end user, but enhancing the entire experience so that devs can, hit the ground running, start building and interacting with people's ships, and they don't have to think about how do they connect to airlock, what happens if the airlock disconnects, how do they, deal with events and subscriptions, what happens if a channel dies. All of that is taken care of by Urbit Visor as this middleware that simplifies the lives of developers and provides end users a brand new experience they never had before. We at dcSpark think that this is really a major step forward for what end users can experience with Urbit. And this will actually allow us to enter into a new period, especially with the launch of software distribution, just the other day now, which allows us to even implement full stack Urbit apps, which use a Gall app that you install when you visit the Urbit website or when you install the web extension, and then everything natively just works through Urbit Visor. There is, in my opinion, almost boundless potential for what can be built off of this. And like I said, we already have some major plans to simplify the developer experience and effectively get it to the point where right now you still need to know how a bunch of different Urbit parts work, but within a mere few months, we can get it to the point where just some random JavaScript or TypeScript coder who barely knows anything about Urbit besides the fact that it's a peer-to-peer identity messaging and computation node/network, they can just jump right in, start building Urbit web apps, start building UV extensions, Urbit Visor powered web extensions, and have a really easy interface and treat Urbit as a backend, which just takes the data and performs all the computations and networking for them, so that everything is simple, clean, and they can just jump in, build apps without several months of understanding the entire system. And this will actually allow us to, start this new generation of not just, very hardcore coders building Urbit, but still bringing in a lot of people more on the front end and who can build simple web apps into the ecosystem, which, as I'm sure many of you have seen, has been a recurring issue where people create awesome Gall apps, but the front ends tend to suffer. And so I think by addressing this front end issue within the web browser, which is proven to work in the crypto world, this is kind of a no-brainer, and this is why we at dcSpark have built Urbit Visor, why we're releasing this very first version, and we have a multi-month roadmap for improving Urbit Visor to get it to the point that we really do think that the Urbit ecosystem will notice how much better and how much simpler it is to get started building either just full web apps and web extensions on top of the existing Urbit stack, or full stack quote unquote web Urbit apps which implement a Gall app that integrates into a front end which uses Urbit Visor either for the web app or for the extension. So with all that said and done, I would like to implore you to visit urbitvisor.com, which will forward you to the GitHub page. Currently, we are submitting Urbit Visor to the Chrome Web Store, and so unfortunately, it's not ready to just simply click a button to install yet, but that will be coming in the next week or two, depending on how fast the web store is. And so if you're interested, it's super simple to compile. The instructions are at the GitHub. Like I said, you can visit urbitvisor.com. You just have to clone the repo, 3 commands, and you can already start using Urbit Visor today. And you can visit Urbit Dashboard at urbitdashboard.com, or inside of Urbit Visor, there is a dashboard button, which takes you to the dashboard. I am really excited and happy to have this very first version released. And I would also like to make a final thank you and appreciation to Myrtle Wackdeck, who helped us build Urbit Visor and Urbit Dashboard when we hired him 2 months ago. And he's been a really awesome employee inside of dcSpark, who's really dedicated a lot of his time and effort, and he's done a really great job. And so I'm really excited to have this very first project being brought to you from me and Myrtle, who we both really believe in Urbit, and we really see a future in all this. And we're really excited to keep improving this and really see what Urbit can become in 1 year's time. Because as we all know, there's a lot of really awesome stuff happening in the ecosystem. And we do personally think Urbit Visor is a really big part of this. But I think with everything building on top of each other, with software distributions, distribution now being released, with WebRTC and Bitcoin Lightning, a lot of other updates upcoming with naive rollups and so forth, we really are starting to reach a point where all of this is stacking on top of each other. And once we start to unify and bring all these different disparate visions of what Urbit is and all the different projects that can start to build up on each other, I think really we're going to start to see that moving into 2022, and by the end of 2022, the landscape, excuse the pun, of what Urbit is going to be totally different, and it's going to be a whole new world that I think a lot more people are going to really want to jump into. And so, once again, thank you very much for watching. Please visit urbitvisor.com, try out urbitdashboard.com, and if you have any comments, questions, please leave those below. And hopefully see you on the Urbit network itself, and have a great day.